Let's start the last portion of our meeting, and we're gonna do our best to answer every question that you might have. Before we do, it was suggested to me that I briefly introduce our board members. And I will start with Mr. Tom Rose down here. He's the damn fellow. Yeah. Mike Peterson was a former board member quite some time ago. He's the old guy with all the experience now. And he's an accountant, so he can't be all bad. Sharon Francis, our secretary, whose tireless work and constant attention to details has been a big asset to the board. Terry Sinkler, our new treasurer, has got a lot of background in her role here that she brought to the table. Roger Benvenuti has been vice president for 2 years. Mark Rumble joined the board last year as a director, and Terry Bowen, along with Roger and I, joined 2 years ago. So that's everybody.
Terry's our lake expert.
Yeah, Terry's kind of the default go-to guy on lake, all things lake issues. So
who's missing, Dave?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, and Jan Ferenz is our 9th board member. She is at a memorial for her son today. So
what is her role?
She is the assistant secretary, and I should mention too, Marcy Hayes was here. Oh, there she is. Yes, she's our assistant treasurer, non-board member but assistant treasurer. So, and I'm Dave. So Dave Adams. So that's us. Thanks again for putting up with a long meeting, and we are going to go right to your questions. Oh, okay. We're going to preempt a question that some people have asked us up here. There was a question posed about should the dues increase pass. The 114 that is the assessment and the invoice for the year is still due on the 31st of October, as it would have been were a dues increase not requested. We are going to put a due date and a deadline of March 1st, 2024 on the difference for this year's assessment should it pass. So you won't have to pay this increase right away. You've got 6 months or so before it becomes due, but because this is kind of a mid-year exercise, we did think that it was appropriate to give everybody time to pay, additional time to pay the balance if the assessment goes through. So March 1st, 2024. So with that, well, I think the question is, okay, Marcy Hayes would like to make a formality out of it. I'm all for that. The motion on the floor is to make a motion for a special meeting to be convened on the 7th of October, 9 a.m. And this wonderful woman in the purple would like to second it. What's your
name is, ma'am? Carol.
Okay.
Thank you, Carol.
All in favor of that taking place?
Aye.
Are there any opposed?
Passed unanimously.
Thank you very much. And with that, I will open the microphone up to our first question.
Hi. I've got one hopefully very easy question, but it leads to a more complicated one.
They always do.
The definition of lot and vote and property, in my mind, is very ambiguous. I have 2 lots on Springwood Drive.
Okay.
My son has 4 on Wavewood Court. So we understand very well that we pay per lot on our dues, but, sorry, this starts out saying lot or property owned. Well, I own 1 property, but I own 4 lots. I pay 4 dues, do I get 4 votes? Or no,
Yeah.
he gets 4.
So the question that, I'm sorry, your name?
Bob Stewart.
Bob Stewart's asking has to do with the vote count and really just the vote count with respect to somebody who owns multiple lots. And the bylaws, the way they are currently, are very clear. It's a per lot assessment and it's a per lot vote. So you would, while the wording on the proxy might say property or lot, if you are part of a subdivision that's platted with lots, you vote those numbers of lots and you pay on that basis. So
Okay, so,
yeah.
so the
Lot, one vote.
vote and lot and payment all are.
Yes,
all
yes,
one.
yes. And not to digress, but I want to be clear about it. The reason why we use the term property is because, as we've learned in the last year or two, there are folks that are not part of a platted subdivision that, in fact, historically and through documents, we've confirmed that they have a voting right. The question becomes how much, and frankly, in the instance that they're not in a platted subdivision with a lot count, the default position based on history is that those sorts of persons will vote
Okay,
one
given
time.
that clarification, I've got a problem with the wording on this.
Yeah, this isn't clear on the word.
Yeah, it's very unclear. It says it's good for 1 vote, and it's very specific about that.
Per
One vote.
eligible.
Per lot or property.
It's a vote per lot.
One vote per lot. And if
So when you
you're not,
list your lot numbers down here,
That's correct.
that's going to make my son's count for 4.
That's correct.
yes.
Okay. Well, and then the much more complicated issue that leads to is, I know this is the way it's always been, that you pay an assessment per lot, but it's not clear to me that that's entirely fair. So he pays, and especially he's looking at, he's paying 4 times a doubling of the dues. And
Yeah.
Gets 4 votes.
Yeah, okay, well, Bob,
Bob,
I'm glad you raised this question. This is a great question. And I will say 2 things. First of all, the question you're getting to is a very important question, but it isn't with respect to, I mean, it isn't about the dues increase per se. What you're really alluding to is a question that goes to a future bylaws amendment, if there is one in the offing, that corrects, or depending on your point of view, corrects or adjusts for folks that own multiple lots, particularly contiguous lots or back lots. Those are all issues that are being reviewed this coming year. So you're not wrong to point out that there's a lot of differing views on the fact, as you put it, it's not fair. That's kind of beyond the scope of this, because this is really a dues increase, but
I'm willing to accept
Yeah.
that, at least for the moment.
Yeah.
It's an issue that he has talked about a lot over the years because he's got 4 of them.
Yes. Yeah.
And I'm aware of it, because I've got 2.
Yep.
So anyhow, and I agree that that's sort of independent of the dues increase. The dues increase, I'll say, just as I'm standing here, sounds like a good plan.
Yeah. All right, Bob, thank you very much.
Sorry. I'm just saying that I agree that that's a separate issue, and I'm saying that the dues increase sounds like a good plan. It just seems like it's getting
Yes.
distributed a little harshly.
Thank you, Bob. I think there's a lot of folks that share your sentiment. All right, well, let's, we got a microphone that works now?
No, just angle it.
Yeah, okay.
Get close.
Hello, can you hear me?
All right, let's be quiet and let's listen to the questions.
Mine's not really a question. I'm Denise McGraw. I have a statement. I'm probably going to get shot for it. The first one is thank you so much for all your hard work. I know you probably work endlessly. The other one is I don't think the amount on here is enough. I think the dues should be increased more. I'm sorry. You have to think about things are increasing.
Yes.
And I talked to a lot of people in our lake that feel the same way. So I think we need to increase this payment even more than what we have on here right now. That's just my opinion. I've talked to several people on the lake as well that feel the same way. So
Thank
that's
you.
not a question, it's just a statement.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, I appreciate the comment. Yeah.
What?
We can count on your yes vote?
Oh, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Let me just respond briefly to what her comment was, and that was that her comment reflects the sentiment of a lot of people I've talked to too. My personal opinion was that it needed to be more, but the consensus of this board was to present the level that we presented. It's a very, very, very solid first step in solving a long-term problem it's inevitable unless we get to it. But I'm going to tell you, I've heard a lot of people say the same thing. So thanks for your comment.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm going to get away from that subject just for a second.
Okay.
Can you address the issue with geese? My understanding is last year we removed geese, and I didn't pick up any goose poop the whole damn summer, and I was thrilled to death. This year I thought we removed eggs, and I don't think that was real successful because I've had geese. I mean, they're in the driveway, they're on the roadway, they're just everywhere. And I'm wondering, why did we change it, and could we go back to just taking the geese off the lake?
They fly back.
Yeah, that's a very good series of questions, and I'm going to let Mike Peterson.
Address that.
Yeah.
Okay, the geese situation is a continuing problem. This year, we tried to do the goose pickup, and I believe it was banned. But the goose pickup is very expensive, and geese come back. 3 years ago, I think it was, we had the geese removed, and man, it was great for the rest of that summer. Come fall, they were back. Following spring, they were, I think, it was 3 seasons ago. Time flies, you're having fun, or not. Yeah. So we talked to Goosebusters as the people who removed the geese, and they're also the people that worked with picking up the eggs this year. I couldn't go around the first pickup. I did go around the second trip, which is like 2 weeks later. And the first time when Goosebusters was out here, they found 20, I think it was 20 or 22 nests. Okay, they picked up 55 eggs. We went around the second time, and we found 2 reed nests, so those were destroyed, and saw no other geese. According to my numbers, we should have had less than 50 geese on the lake, which is not true. In talking to Goosebusters, the geese migrate. The pickup was only on Lake James 2. Maybe we should have gone into Shadow Lake, but we didn't have permission to do that, and this was the first time through. The geese could also come from Houghton Lake after the hatchings, but my observation is we've had very few goslings this year compared to prior. It's, excuse the expression, it's a crapshoot, because they put a lot of crap down there. We don't know, there is no real solution. Goosebusters claims this is more effective in the long run, because if you have less new ones in the future, you should have fewer. Geese are very nocturnal, they match for life. They come back to the same place year after year. I mean, myself on our lot, at one point, I counted 50 or 60 this year, more than once. And we get a lot over where we are. This far side, across the canal, they don't get any, and that's not fair.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Yes, regarding, first thing, regarding the insurance,
Yes.
real fast. How come the insurance is so high for liability and casualty? What does it cover?
Okay, that's a great question.
It's 10% of our budget, I think.
It precisely is, it's a lot. And the question is why is the insurance so high? And I can tell you that Mark Rumble is taking the lead on that right now. But in short terms, nobody wants to insure these dams. Okay, it gets down to underwriters are leaving the market. The ones that are remaining are getting a higher premium, and a lot of it just boils down to lack of carriers. But the notion that we can do something absent having insurance is foolish.
Who's the broker on this?
We are we have been working with Gaylor in town.
Gaylor
Yeah.
locally, and then I'm working with somebody downstate right now.
So you've only got 2 bids on this?
No, agencies.
Agencies, well, they put it out. I know.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah. We've got 2 agencies, and whatever fans out from.
You know, I belong to an HOA down south too, and we've got like 10,000 people in our HOA.
It's a big deal.
And we don't even pay close to that for liability or insurance.
Do you have a water?
Yeah, so,
It's because
Oh,
of
yes.
what happened with the dam.
yeah,
They
there's
just
a lot more casualty stuff.
Yeah.
That seems quite high. What other than that?
4 or 5 years ago, we were paying $2,000 to $2,500
Yeah.
a year. And that covered the liability for the lake and also director's liability, total. And we can't do that. You look at the numbers,
Yeah.
we're not doing that now. It's not because we don't want to.
Okay. Regarding this increase, you know, it's had a COLA increase, right, the index?
Yeah.
Yes.
And it came to $14 a lot, correct? How many lots do we have?
There are
700?
No, about 1,000.
Yeah.
About, okay, 1,000. Now you're talking $14,000 there, just in the increase.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, are you going to do that next year again? The cost of living, so it go up 14,000 per lot again. So
Not
really,
per lot,
Yeah.
per lake. 14,000. Your statement was it goes up 14,000 per lot. No,
Per
it's
lot.
14,000 per.
no,
association.
14, but that would be $14,000.
Yeah.
Correct.
1,000 lots.
Yeah, well,
Right.
okay.
No, I understand.
Okay, and then is that going to go on again?
Yeah.
You're going to put the COLA on here with the increase if it happens to go through?
I think the question is, does the COLA increase provision in the existing bylaws still apply to the new number? And the answer would be yes. Now, here's the thing. Again, I'll go back to this. There's a whole wave of bylaws, edits, modifications, amendments that we're trying to work our way through right now. And that actually could be something that is considered. But right now, the only thing this does is restrict the use of the dam funds for anything other than the dam. Other than that, we're not making any changes to the bylaws right now. So yes, the COLA increase capped at 5% would remain.
Are you going to be doing that in October?
Sorry?
Any changes in the bylaw in October?
The bylaws cover a COLA increase.
Are you talking about this
Yeah,
ballot,
yeah.
sir?
Right.
The only change of the bylaws in October, along with this dues increase, is right here, and it's verbatim what we're going to
Can
do.
you bring it up?
Pardon me?
Can you bring it up in the October meeting?
Oh, absolutely.
Where you won't have to pay both, the increase plus the COLA.
So
No,
the-
Because COLA's always going to be there if you don't change the bylaws.
If we increase the dues in October, we're not taking 5% on it.
Oh,
It wouldn't be until
okay,
next August.
not till the following year. Yes, no, you're correct. I'm sorry. 240 is the number for the upcoming year without a COLA increase. This includes the COLA increase for the current year.
But the COLA increase thing by the bylaws is still in there. You got to get rid of it then.
Well,
No.
that's a
Annual dues.
okay. Wait. That's a suggestion. That's a suggestion from the floor, and honestly, I think it's a fair question to ask. Perhaps it should be on the survey, because it's not an unreasonable question. But I will tell you, in this room, there's probably some folks that would say, well, of course you have to do COLA from there on afterwards, and other folks, frankly, might concede with you.
Well,
that-
you can take a vote on it in October then.
Yeah.
might put that on there then. Because,
Can I just
you know,
respond?
people are gonna get, they're gonna vote for the 240, they're also gonna vote for the $14 a lot again. So you're up, we're getting $14,000 more on our budget by the increase.
And not this year.
1,000 lots, $14 a lot,
Yeah, not-
by a COLA.
Yeah. Let me-
Okay, hold on.
I'd like to respond.
Go ahead.
So, sir, first of all, the COLA increase in our bylaws language, that language covers a very minimal, minuscule increase per lot per owner, which is the consideration of this board. We considered, by this comment from the previous member who came up and said this increase is really too low, we considered all the membership in this association. We have retirees that are on fixed incomes, we have vacation homeowners, we have different types. Our ultimate goal is to make sure that our lake is preserved and our dam that holds our water is maintained properly and timely. So the COLA increase takes that into consideration. Now keep in mind, I've been on this lake since 2010. I've been here for 13 years. My COLA, and I can respect your time on the lake, sir, but in the 10 years or the 13 years I've been here, the COLA increase has only been enacted probably 5 years. We've sat on a $90 dues payment annually per lot for several years on this lake. It is time we catch up. And the COLA increase allows the board to go forward with increases from the previous year on their budget. Now, I'm not saying that we won't ask for another dues increase. I'm not saying that's not true. But the COLA is a very important part for the board to continue maintaining and preserving the lake.
But both of them at the same time. See, that's what I'm getting into. If they're gonna vote for the 240, you shouldn't have the COLA in there then. I
Well,
wouldn't
no, the
think.
COLA is already charged.
But in the future.
I believe that the way I understand the bylaws, when we look at the increase next year, it's going to be based on the percentage. It's going to be 5% of 240 versus this year was 5% of 107. So that was it 108, whatever. So that's the way the bylaws are currently. Not that, like Dave said, that doesn't mean they can't be changed in the future. But the way it's written now, and that would be the dues assessed next summer, next July, August, your bill will go up 5% of 240.
How long has it been now since we had the dam done? It's been about 7 years, 8 years? I don't know.
That's about right. That's about right.
Yeah.
It's about that, yes. About six to 8 years.
To keep it up to date,
Right.
didn't we have?
Right.
Sir, we're gonna have to get some other questions
yeah,
on the
but
floor.
still.
Okay.
It's okay.
Yeah, I appreciate the questions.
Yeah.
The comments are, we're noting them, and
We noted them.
you're not without a sympathetic ear. Yes, sir.
This is my first meeting. I don't even need no speaker. But,
That's it.
I have a question. And since y'all's a new board, maybe you can help me out. I moved here 8 years ago. I own 2 lots. I didn't even know what the association dues was. My realtor never told me. So I lived here for a year, then I get a bill. I paid the bill. I went down to the county, Roscommon. I put both of my 2 lots together. I didn't want nobody building on that lot, so I got 1 lot. Now the state of Michigan says I got 1 lot. The Roscommon County says I got 1 lot. So when the bill came in next year, I sent them a check for 1 lot. They said, no, you owe 2. I said, no, I don't. I got paperwork right here that says I got 1 lot. And I'm sure there's a lot of people in this room right here that have more than 1 lot and have combined their lots. So if the county and the state say that I have 1 lot, who is this board or any other board going to tell me that I should have to pay on 2 lots?
Yes.
I did extensive research into that from being a previous board member. If you look on your property description, if you combine your properties together, your property description says 2 lots under 1 parcel. You're looking at a parcel description, not a lot.
Okay.
I guarantee you, it's
Okay.
a parcel.
Mine don't say that.
Let's
Sir,
just.
can I have your name, please?
Yeah, John Evans,
And what is your address on Lake James?
310 Driftwood Circle.
Okay,
I'm not on the water.
Okay.
Okay,
John, your last name again, I'm sorry.
Evans, E-V-A-N-S, yeah.
Thank you. You know what, look, can we take this offline?
Sure, it would
We can
just,
talk about it.
yeah.
And we can
it's my
certainly
first
clear
meeting,
that.
so I thought, well,
Yeah.
it's been by. The reason is I called, and here's what the board member told me at the time. I said, well, I don't think it's fair. I did all this work. It cost me money to do this.
Sure.
And they, you know what they said? Too bad, you're still paying for 2 lots. And hung up the phone on me. I didn't think that was justified.
Sir,
John, hold on.
that's a sir of the bylaws, sir.
okay, hold on.
It's in the bylaws.
Wait. The issue is that the bylaws do call it the way these folks are saying it. But your question really is a question of fairness and a question of something that can be changed by the majority of this board. I mean, the membership, I'm sorry, not
Okay.
this board.
Yeah.
And I will tell you that there are a lot of people in your position that feel exactly as you do. My personal opinion, and it's just me, because there's some dissension here, and I want to be clear. In my personal opinion, you have a valid point. To me, there is nothing that should prevent an owner such as yourself, particularly once you combine those lots semi-permanently or permanently because you've got a house straddling it, or you're not going to split it and sell it, you don't get any more utility out of the lake or the home than anybody else. And so there's a valid argument. Now, all that said, I'm sharing my personal opinions. I will tell you there's a lot of resistance, perhaps on this board and in this room, to do anything other than what the bylaws say. It's a fair and open question, and it will be on the survey.
And they didn't tell me about no bylaws. They just hung up the phone. They just said, sorry, you got to pay 2 lots, no matter what.
Yeah, well...
Well, come and see me after the meeting. I want to have a discussion with you about that. Okay, I'll explain it to you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, John, for your comments. I think they're very important.
Hi, Dave. Hi, guys.
Hey, Kathy.
Good. Just a couple things. One, fishing in the canals. I know you guys like to fish in the canals because that's where all the fish hide, but please be careful around people's boat. Our boat has been hooked multiple times out there with people casting. Remember, this is where we live, and a lot of us have $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 tied up in boats and stuff. We do not need you casting out on your boat. We talked about safety, 4-wheelers. I live on the corner of Lake James Drive and Driftwood, okay? Please, talk to your children. I watch them run through that stop sign daily, okay? And somebody's going to get hurt. We are going to have a tragedy on this lake. So please talk to your kids. Make sure they're obeying. We want the kids to have fun, but make sure they're obeying the stop signs and the signs within the lake so nobody gets hurt. We don't need a tragedy here. To address the gentleman that talked about the 2 lakes, if you, and this is just my personal opinion, but if we modify the bylaws to say that if your properties are combined, you only own 1 lot, we are going to have a deficit in our dues. And what ultimately happens is then those people that own 1 lot will be responsible for picking up that deficit. Okay, I currently have 2 lots, so I pay $216 on my 2 lots. If you reduce that down to $118, you are $108 short. Somewhere that's got to be spread out among all the other property owners. You are going to put the burden of that on the 1 lot owners. Okay, nobody told you to buy multiple lots in here. That was a conscious choice you made. Pay the money. And the last thing is, you gave us an estimate approximately of what you thought it would cost to replace the dam. Should we have things? Your estimate is light for a couple of reasons. One, if the water leaves the lake is going to become overgrown. So we have to anticipate the cost of cleaning the lake before we can replace the dam and refill it with water. Secondly, if you go online and you can Google it, those people that live on Wixom Lake and Sanford Lake that want to sell their houses, their property values have plummeted almost 30%. Their homes are sitting out there in excess of 6 months because they don't have a lake. I don't think that's a situation we want to put ourselves in. So we need to prepare to be able to act quickly in the event that we do have a catastrophe. And I'm going to sit my butt down now.
Kathy, thank you for your remarks.
Oh, Hello, I'm Tom Hayes. I'd just like to make a couple comments regarding the dues increase. If the people that lived on Sanford Lake and Seacourt Lake and the other ones had the opportunity to spend $240 a year to keep their lake, 3 years ago would they have done it? Secondly, we've all heard of the Surfside incidents that happened in Florida. A major condo collapsed. They told them there was problems. It'll be $1 million to fix. We'll wait. $5 million to fix. We'll wait. $20 million to fix. We'll wait. A lot of older people said, "We'll let our grandkids worry about it." It collapsed. We need to spend the money on the dam. It's the biggest asset we have. That's it.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you.
Bernie Adams.
Hi, Bernie.
I just was doing some numbers on your budget here, and it looks like if you add up water maintenance, the dam maintenance, and insurance, that's just shy of 75% of the money you're asking for, which is, I mean, to me, it's a no-brainer. And the other thing I was going to comment on is we happen to live on the water, but I'm not opposed to the people that actually live on the water paying more than the people that are off water.
Yes.
Thank you, Bernie. Thanks, Bernie. That's another question that comes up, and it's a hotly debated question, and we should actually be asking the membership at large about those things and put those issues to rest once and for all. Because
that in the survey.
yes, that should be in the survey as well. Hi, Jim.
Depends on who you ask.
I would like to talk about Moosehead Park. It is not a convention center. It is called it's used as a boat launch. Every year there seems to be more and more convention activities on the boat launch. I'm speaking of one in particular which you're well aware of.
Yes, sir.
You impede the people that want to come and use the boat launch as a boat launch during these events. Now, I suggest, and I've talked to my neighbors, that let other people that like these events enjoy them also. So we've got a Matchwood Park that's not used for anything. Why are we punishing those that want to use a boat launch as a boat launch to have events when they could still use the boat launch as a boat launch because they're dues-paying members and have events on Matchwood Park? That way, everybody else can enjoy the music, the side-by-sides, the golf carts, and all the other pleasures that go along with it. It can support it. Do I have any objections to that?
Jim?
Got my point?
I think
They got my point?
I got your point, Jim. And you know what? I think to be fair, and you know what? Jim's got a lot of valid points, but it gets down to having these events be held in respectful manners and so on and so forth. To be fair, Jim, the part you left out, to be fair, is that you live right next to that entrance. I'm sorry.
Let's be fair to the neighbors, okay? And let's be fair to the people that pay their dues and want to launch their boats, but is impeded because you're having some sort of event. I'm not saying don't stop having the event. Have it on another park.
It's a fair point to make.
You could have more room for the boaters to launch their boat, park their car and trailer like they normally do. Why don't you want to have it on Matchwood Park? Tell me why.
Well, all right.
Well, wait.
Hey.
You could provide parking real easy.
It's a rhetorical question. He's not really asking everybody to answer at once. So let's just, it's a fair question to ask, and it's something that we should look into. I will tell you, as everybody here ought to know if they don't know, we don't sponsor that particular event. They do come to us and ask for permission in the couple of years that I've been here, and we have granted permission for them to use the park in that manner. Now, does that mean it's absolutely fair or there aren't other options? Certainly there's other options and there's other considerations, and we will probably try and parse that a little more fairly in the next few months, but I will tell you that so far the position of the board has been, as long as you don't make a wreck of the park, as long as you respect your neighbors, as long as you keep the noise down, and obviously that's a subjective issue, as long as you do right by your neighbors and you take care of things when you leave, we haven't tried to restrict the use of that park or any other park. Now, the unique thing that Jim raises is that it is the only park that's got a gated lock on it. And it does beg the question, why not somewhere else? And it's a fair question to ask. So I think this board should think about it, and maybe before we just approve it next year, we should at least consider what the other options and pros and cons might be. So.
I wasn't intending
Go up
on
to the
speaking on this,
microphone.
but
Go up to the microphone.
in answer to his question,
Yeah.
the nice thing about it being gated is we don't want this turning into Woodstock. So this is for the local residents. If it's gated, we can control that. So once you open up Matchwood, hey, how are you going to stop anybody from coming there? And then you got a real mess.
Okay.
Just something to consider.
It's a fair counterpoint.
That's it, they lock the gate.
Okay.
They don't lock the gate, and you can roll the gate on that.
Yes, ma'am.
No problem.
I am the lot that backs up to Matchwood, okay? So you can understand my concern would be parking, people wandering in and out. Now, on the other hand, I have noticed there is an increase, and I don't know, but my neighbors over here might know, people that are still coming into Matchwood and fishing off of there that I don't think belong to our community anyway. So I already see that increase coming because I'm the lot that backs up. Carol, what do you see there?
There's more people that aren't on the way to fish there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Now, I'm not opposed to people not having fun or whatever. I feel these people that are coming respect the area. I hope they put the fish back, but I can't guarantee that. But I do see more cars being parked in there that I don't should belong in there.
Yes.
So my question then would be is, how many more cars are going to be parking on my property?
For them. Well, again, that's a great counterpoint, and it's not something that the board isn't listening to.
I never say anything because I'm old and I don't want nobody just farting around my mind.
I'm at one side, Carol's at the other. So.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
I'm Cindy Kogensparger, and I have a neighbor that lives near me that lives off the lake, owns 3 lots. And we have this discussion every year about why I should pay more. I said, well, why did you buy in here? Well, because living in here, my house is worth more than if it was down the street, not in this organized community. True. And you pay less taxes off the lake than you pay on the lake. So having fairness is really by the lot, and it shouldn't matter if you're on the lake or off the lake, there's still value to your property from having this membership.
I'm Sharon Andre.
Hi, Sharon.
And first of all, I want to make a comment about the geese, which is for the past 2 years, the DNR or Eagle has not issued permits to remove the geese at all because of avian flu. So that's why they couldn't do that. This year they did get permission, or they had permission to get the eggs, which they did. But the reason why they didn't round up the geese is because they were not allowed to do that. So that's the one.
Thank you.
As far as the dues increase or the budget, I have a question about why some of the other line items are being increased as much as they are. For an admin cost from $4,500 to $10,000, almost more than double. The community events and meetings is now a line item. And I don't know why wildlife control would go from $1,500 to $4,800. So I think we need to have a dam fund. I'm all in favor of the dam fund, but I don't know if we need to increase the whole budget that much, because I don't know if these line items are that expensive or need to be there.
Yeah.
The other question I have has to do with the bylaws. Do we need to have the new bylaws, I can't remember, passed, legal, before we do the money, the budget increase?
Okay.
So.
Let me take your last question first, Sharon.
Okay.
The overall bylaws revisions that we're working on right now as a board, we're in the middle of. This dues increase is a separate effort, it's a separate issue, it's a separate ballot item. And so the broader revisions that we're working on as a board, and we will present to you through the surveys before it all gets done, is all separate and apart from this. There is only one single bylaws amendment connected with the dues increase request, and that is a restriction on the use of those funds for anything other than the dam. In other words, I may have said it before, I'll be clear about it again. I myself would not support this dues increase myself if it didn't come with the restriction on this board and the future boards to only use those funds for the purposes of the dam. Because when I'm long gone, okay, and when we're all gone, I don't know who's going to be here 5-10 years from now. But I've seen what's come and gone, and it scares me to think that there's $500,000 in some savings account that a wrong-minded set of people up here would redirect. And I'm being frank. I mean, it's not a matter of trust. It's a matter of just common sense and human nature. So the point I'm making is this dues increase is tethered to a restriction of only using that money for the dam. And the only way that would change is by another meeting and another vote of everybody on the lake. It's not something they can rescind. It's not something a board can say later, it says that, but we're going to use it for this. Can't be done. Okay? So it's a protection to the membership at large that the money set aside will be indeed used for only that purpose. That's the only amendment that goes hand in hand with the dues increase. The rest of them are all things we're working on, and they will be the subject of the surveys that we're sending out shortly. Does that make sense, Sharon? Okay, the other question she asked had to do with some details, and I do think that a lot of people have these questions. I don't want to spend a lot of time, but let me give you an overview. There are certain things on the new revised budget or proposed budget based on the increase that simply aren't to be found in our current budget because there's literally zero money. And I mentioned some of them earlier. Erosion control and mitigation savings for that. There is not a nickel in our budget for any of that. And so we're adding that to that. I think, though, without going through the whole list again, one of the things that is a fair thing to land on, Sharon mentioned admin costs. It's a fair question. And the reason why admin costs and legal and collections are more heavily weighted than you've seen in the past is a couple reasons. Number one, the admin costs that we have right now are $4,500. Just to do a mailing costs $600 or $700. Okay, there's the budget of $4,500 a year to run an organization of this size is it's almost silly to try and do it on the money we have. So there's a natural increase that a healthy organization would allow for to get business done the right way. As it is, we can't do another mailing without worrying about postage. I mean, that's absurd. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm sorry to offend somebody if I say that, but that is not the kind of problem that we should be focusing on. The fact that we don't have enough money for a couple mailings a year. Secondly, the other thing that's valued in there, and it's important to understand this, Terry Bone doesn't charge a nickel for his services. None of us do, and we're not asking to. I want to make that real clear. But if you were to take the things that I've seen this board do, Roger as a professional, Sharon as a professional, and I'm not leaving anybody out. We're all professionally employed, either now or very recently. If a board of the average citizens wanted to maintain the functions that we are doing gratis, the money you would take, for instance, a web guy, okay, a web, with all, without trying to be sound like a jerk. I'm an accountant. I'm a CPA. I know how to do certain things. If I'm not here, this board needs to hire that. You cannot count on, luckily, electing somebody with the skills that this board has. So if you don't budget for these things, you are understating the cost of doing business the right way.
Can I just add something?
And yes, and Sharon would like to add something to that.
I just want to add that when this board first came on board, we had no clue whose dues were paid, whose dues were not, who was in the association. Why? Because there was no record keeping in the previous years. Nothing that we could go to. We went to a paid, certified public accountant that received cash dollars from this association multiple years, and he could not provide that support. It took this board almost 18 months to get everything squared away. This year you received an invoice that had your lot number on it, your address on it, had the amount correctly billed to you. And the only reason you did that was because this team put together a QuickBooks program that we're not paying for right now. But eventually we will have to. And if you Google QuickBooks and you find out what it costs per year, you're going to get sticker shock. So you take what Dave said, the web service that Terry Bone voluntarily provides. You take the accounting services that Dave and Terry provide. You take the administrative services and the printing and those policies that you signed when you picked up your keys. The ink, the paper, all of that stuff adds up, and prices aren't going down. So we need an accounting system. We need to be able to maintain that accounting system, and that takes money. So the increase in the admin, although you may think it's a lot, the number may scare you, but the purpose it serves does not.
That is not true, Sharon.
It is true.
Wait. If somebody's got a comment, please come to the microphone. But please do not shout things from the back of the building. Yes, sir.
All right. Brian Kroc. Been coming up this lake since '78 with my family. Just recently got a place on the lake, so first meeting I've been here.
Thank you for coming.
Looking at the increase, $240 to me. It cost me more than that to drive up here. Right? So it's not a big deal. We've got 1,000 lots, right? How many of those lots? So you stated that there was 420 keys that have been issued so far.
451.
450. Okay, so 450. Each lot should get a key. So if you got 4 lots, you should have 4 keys.
No.
But
no.
Hold on. You got 1,000 lots.
I understand.
There should be 1,000 keys. Now, taking out a couple of hundred, we're looking at 250 people that haven't gotten their keys yet, and you said they have to be in good standing to get their keys.
Correct.
So how many lots are not in good standing? And how much money is that that's not being collected?
Yeah.
Okay? So this $240 or $100 and some dollar increase, is that to try and accommodate for the people that aren't paying their dues?
So let me jump in and just say your questions are absolutely valid, okay? The question, amongst many questions in a question, was, among other things, what are we doing to collect money? I will tell you that since we took over 2 years ago, we had an estimated outstanding, again, which George Clark, who is the CPA in town, was responsible for all this before our arrival, could not tell us accurately who owed what. Okay. The balance on the balance sheet when we took over was almost $30,000.
So at $100, you're looking at...
Let me finish. Within the time frame that we now sit here, that number is down to about $16,000.
A little bit less now.
Yeah. So we've got still an outstanding, but just so I'm clear with you, we are doing everything we can feasibly do to collect every nickel that's owed, because nobody should be footing the bill for delinquent people. There's no issue with that. There's no dispute with that. But the idea that we are somehow short on our budget or short in an operating basis because people aren't paying. It's just a matter of time.
Okay.
It's a matter of time.
So,
yeah.
The other question I have is 30. You're saying 30% of the new budget
yes,
is going to go towards dam maintenance. We can't touch that. So 72,000 a year.
Yes, sir.
With the COLA increase that supposedly is going to come, there's another $12 there. That's going to increase that money.
Yeah.
Hold on.
Okay.
So if we just stick with the 240 a year, within 4 to 5 years, we've got the $300 and some $1,000 covered.
Yes.
That money can't be touched except for dam.
Yes.
So after that, once we've got that, what size does that fund have to get to before we start using that money for something else?
That's a great question. I'm glad somebody asked it because I have an answer for that. First of all, as we all sit here, we don't know the exact number because of inflation and construction costs of what that, but we do understand the order of magnitude. We know it to be in the hundreds of thousands of dollars. Call it 3, call it 4, call it some number in there because of inflation. And frankly, we don't know the scope of work till we do some more studies. And frankly, we don't know exactly, at the end of the day, precisely what needs to be done to mitigate whatever problems it may be. It may be the erosion around the dam that's a bigger problem than the intake. It might be the intake. But your point is very valid because there will come a point, perhaps, where we're going to be collecting $72,000 a year, and all of a sudden we've got more money, 6 or 7 years out, than it reasonably takes. And here's what I would tell you. At that time, the board at that time is free to come to you and say, listen, we have more money than we need. We would like to reallocate, or we would like to, either stop or stench or whatever you want to call it, pare back the set-asides that were baked in 5 years ago in 2023. Nothing would make me happier. But you have to be there in order to make the decision. We have to get there and have the savings to replace the roof before those questions even come into play. But I think your question's perfect because I have the same question. What happens? I mean, are we just going to collect $72,000 a year for the end of time and maybe we don't have to spend it on the dam? First of all, we're going to have to spend it. Let's set aside that for a minute. But it's a fair question to ask.
I understand. Money's going to have to be spent to maintain the dam.
Yes.
Okay, but everybody wants to compare our dam to the dams that failed. Okay?
Yeah.
So you've got a series of dams on a river
yeah.
that is constantly flowing. The first one fails, all that water from that river plus that comes down. The next one,
yeah.
the next one, the next one. Our lake is not that.
Yeah.
So to compare our dam to those dams, you're
you're
kind of blowing this a little out of proportion, in my opinion.
Well, I don't disagree, but let me make a point. You're right. It's not Sanford Dam, but guess what? Sanford Dam is going to be $1,000 a person. I mean,
you're talking apples and oranges here. Okay? Like I said, our dam is not what theirs was. Our dam doesn't do what their dams did.
Fair point. Absolutely. But you still have to preserve it, and you still have to go by the engineering reports we have.
I get it. But the chances of our lake draining out because our dam completely failed and nobody saw it coming, that's slim to none. I'm not saying it can't happen.
Yeah.
But the chances of that happening are so negligible that...
I wish the insurance companies understood that.
Yeah.
That I can't help you with.
And that may be why we still can get dam insurance, but it's very costly.
Yeah.
It may be.
Let's keep moving. I appreciate the comments because the big takeaway for me is there is a question in the future that goes to if we have excess funds, what happens? And the short answer is they have to come back to you, the voters, the members, to redirect any of those funds.
Yes.
And I think that's the only way it should be. No board up here should be able to just redirect those funds. Thank you.
Ready?
Hi,
Sharon. Hi. There are a lot of people in this audience who have been on previous boards, and they've worked very, very hard. And your comment that you didn't have a list of people who paid and didn't pay, and you didn't know all these things, and Mike, you know that's not a true comment. So I don't appreciate that. We kept books. We marked people down. You were running a couple pair of books when you were taking keys, and Dave is downstate working.
So please don't make comments like that. There's a lot of people here who came to my house personally every year to do these kind of things, stuffed envelopes and did all the things that you guys are doing now. And they saw all those kind of books. So I would appreciate you not saying things like that. We kept good books. And we put 20 grand in a damn fund on $90 a year. So please, don't say stuff like that. I mean, I agree, you're doing a great job.
Thank you, Mary Jo.
Yeah,
Don't say stuff like that.
Thank you.
that's a fair set of remarks.
People work very hard on all these
I'm not
boards.
taking anything away from the
With a
board.
crazy,
Yeah.
and Terry, God bless him, fixed everything. But we were working in a system that wasn't even supported, and he was taking care of it. And he was doing a good job. But these people have good intentions, and they worked hard.
There is
So
no
please
question
don't.
about that.
Mary Jo, before you leave, I just want to respond to some of your comments. Mary Jo, first of all, I am not taking anything away from the previous board members that manage this association. They've done volunteers, they cleaned up Bikini Island, they've done park maintenance, they've done things on their own time. I am not taking anything away from that whatsoever. My statement was that we had a CPA that got paid very valuable dollars from this association and could not add 1 + 1. And note, and I'm sorry.
Yeah, okay, look here.
If you don't like it, you don't like it.
Listen, I appreciate the comments. Obviously, there's a little bit of a disparity, but I can tell you firsthand, because I was in the front of that George Clark did not deliver what I would be running. I would lose my license if I did the work that he did. And again, to echo Sharon, that's not to take anything away from the people that have worked hard on the boards in the past. But we had some bad professional advice that it's a good thing we're rid of now. Yes, sir.
Okay, we already addressed this once, but I'm not quite clear. It's basically one lot, one vote, correct?
Yes, sir.
On here. Do we need to list all our lots, or you're going to know by your address how many lots we have and give us that many votes?
Yeah. So here's the question: it goes to filling out this proxy. Yeah, we only need one of these per resident, even if you've got multiple lots.
Yes.
But if you have multiple lots and you have multiple, therefore, votes, please fill in to the extent possible the information underneath. If there's more than 2 lots you own, please list every address. We have a database that will tell us, for instance, if we know your name, you're connected with these 3
I
or 4
don't have a
lots.
subdivision lot. I'm one of those oddballs that is out of the subdivision. So I have some kind of designation. I don't know what it is.
Yes.
To put on there.
The key policy receipt that I gave you when you got your key has all your lot information and your subdivision.
I still have it. That's on us. I think.
Yeah. The short answer is fill this in the best you can.
Yeah.
As long as we have your address and your name filled in.
I remember the other
and
question is
signature.
I kind of touched on. I just want to be clear. When this is done, okay, you have that meeting October 7th or whatever it is. How many people have to turn that vote in to make it count?
Great question. Okay, let's do some, simple math that doesn't necessarily, I'm not using accurate numbers, but I'm going to use numbers for the sake of an illustration. Let's assume for a moment that there's 1,000 homes. I don't believe, or 1,000
There's
villages.
supposed to be 700 residents. 1,000 lots, 700 residents.
Yeah,
That's the way I understand it.
So my understanding it's something less than that, but for the sake of a simple math illustration, let's assume it's 1,000. Quorum under our bylaws calls for 25% to be present and able to vote. Okay.
25% of the lots or 25% of the homeowners?
25% of the lots.
Okay.
So you'd need 250 votes cast in total to create a quorum.
Okay.
Of that, we need 60% of the 250 to vote in favor. We need 150 of these folks.
So if you got somebody who's got 5 lots, their vote's going to count more than the people with 2 lots.
That's exactly right.
Only if they vote.
Only if they vote, exactly.
That's right.
Only if they vote.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Everyone calls me Punk, so that's what I'll go by. But
Hi, Punk.
my
my memory could be slipping me, but didn't we discuss one time about having open board meetings?
Yes, that's a recurring theme. Yes, let's talk about recurring open board meetings. I will tell you that first of all, in theory, they're great. In theory, you know, we should have our meetings like this every month, where anybody could come in and participate or listen or give their comments. As a practical matter, you need to create the forum, you need to have the space, you need to have the arrangements with a venue that is recurring. We tried to get to a point early in this year through an arrangement with Markey Township that would have accommodated that. We didn't so long as get into about 3 meetings before Markey Township pulled the plug on that relationship for reasons that had nothing to do with us. It had to do with the fact that apparently we couldn't be doing what we're doing there because of the city charter. I don't understand it. But my point is that it is a very difficult thing and costly thing potentially to create an ability for this board to do business in front of a group of people and have an open meeting. Now, there's nothing wrong with, in my view, the goal would have been to have maybe 2 or 3 open meetings a year at the least to kind of address your concern, because there's something to be said for doing this in front of people. But at the other end of the spectrum, I can tell you firsthand, without a doubt now, we would get nothing done. Nothing at all done if what we do, because I'll tell you something, we have Zoom meetings, we meet at our houses, are a combination of both. They can go from 3 to 6 hours. That's no lie. Once a month we're doing this. That's the truth.
Sometimes twice.
Sometimes twice a month. It's God more than I ever thought I'd be in for. Okay. Now, most of those meetings are pretty informal. They're knockdown dragouts every now and then. And I will tell you that it is hard just for 9 people to get to a consensus to get some shit done. I'm so sorry. So sorry. And so, while I understand the desire to, you know, have open forum and open meetings, it's a theoretical that this organization isn't mature enough for, frankly. We don't have, look, if you wanted to say to me, Punk, look, I will be responsible to the board for securing a venue once every 3 or 4 months, and you arrange it, and you get the township to agree, and you set up the microphones, and you set up everything that you see here, you can have that job, and we will respectfully host 1 or 2 or 3 meetings a year in a public forum instead of just this one. But we are already doing about 6 to 10 hours a month and in meetings and trying to come to consensus to present to you what we do. And I'm not going to belabor it much more. It's a very difficult thing to get done as a practical matter. Yes,
I was not aware that we didn't have the place up there. I thought we were still renting that place up there.
Yeah, no. What happened? Well, then your question makes even more sense. Markey Township decided that they could not accommodate us, and again, it had nothing to do with us or the board's intentions or what we do. It had everything to do with the fact that their charter wasn't permitting us to conduct that sort of a thing there. And so we're back to square one in terms of that.
Offices up there? Did you like put your office in there or something?
Yes, for a short time we actually had file cabinets set up. Our intention, frankly, and we haven't touched on that, and I don't want to get into stuff because you don't care about. If you did, you'd ask. But we've been trying to create a little bit of an ability, if you will, to actually run an office. I mean, Sharon's running stuff out of her house. I'm running stuff out of my house. It's a little disjointed, and I'm not suggesting we all pay for a big office and nonsense, but we have to have a place that isn't rodent infested to keep records. Okay, the pole barn has no safe space and no useful space that's secure to even keep a few file cabinets or conference table. We have 0 facilities. So
I am trying to digitize. Bring us up into this.
So I'll just leave it at that. We're trying very hard to address the notion that public meetings are a thing. I'm not going to say they aren't, but we aren't in a position budgetarily or you know, workload wise that we can even think about it at this point.
Thank you.
Yes, sure.
Okay. About open meetings, first of all, you can reserve the Stone Hall, Denton Township Stone Hall, and it won't cost anything because you're a nonprofit. That hall holds about 70 people is legal. So that's one. You can get, you can't store your stuff there, but you can have meetings there at no cost. The other thing is, it depends on how you set up your meeting, an open meeting. I've been on several different boards, and the public is invited. The public often doesn't show up. Maybe you get a couple of people, maybe you get more, depending. But ours is set up that there are comments from the audience at the end, and they're only allowed to speak for 2 minutes. So they're not allowed to talk during the meeting or at all. So they don't really disrupt it. And my experience has been, if I'm sitting in a circle with my board members, that the folks in the back, you don't even remember that they are after a while, because they can't talk, they can't say anything until the very end. So open meetings to me are very easy to organize, and you have a spot where you can do it. You don't have good Wi-Fi back there, but that's the only limitation you would have.
Well, there's the problem. We live down in the state, so most of the time it's Zoom meetings.
Well, if you want to hold Zoom meetings, that's a problem.
Yeah.
But if you're having, face-to-face meetings, you can do it.
I mean, I tried, but.
Well, yep. Sharon, thanks for your comments. I'll tell you what, everybody seems to think the meeting's over, so I'm not going to kick a gift horse in the mouth. Carol, you have one last?
Could you, by any chance, maybe fix that building up so you have a space?
Absolutely. It's on, that's one of the things that's in the budget if we get this passed. The pole barn actually has the potential to do a lot of things that it's not able to do right now. For not a lot of money. I mean, construction costs are crazy right now, but it wouldn't take a lot in terms of dollars and volunteer work to get that pole barn to a point in a year or two that it would solve a lot of these problems. And it's already there. We should be doing that.
And as far as the one gentleman said that with the keys, that the other people, that the way I understood, the other ones that don't have keys are behind on their dues. That's not true. A lot of them people just don't have a booth.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, you're right about that. I think there's a lot of misinformation and presumptions that happen when you start talking about who should have a key and who doesn't, and lots and so on and so forth. I will just sum it up by saying this board, Sharon in particular, is doing the very best she can with what her job that she's assumed is, okay? Yeah. It's a very difficult thing, and it's a job. I mean, people don't understand. She's got people coming from her house like it's an office building.
I understand.
Yeah. No, your point is right, but I guess all I'm getting at is let's not lay too much weight in a few people that are upset because they had a bad experience with a key exchange. You got 900 people, and accommodating 900 people is not easy, especially when we don't have an office. There are no secretaries. There's nobody paid to help or deal with this.
Right. Yeah. I agree with you, and I agree. I think that the people should be thankful that you people go and do everything you do, and you don't ask for any money. Truthfully, you should be paid something for all your work.
Thank you, Carol.
They take everything for granted, like it just falls out of the heavens. And it doesn't.
Thank
you. Instead of thanking you, they got all kinds of comments and everything. But yet they won't get out there and work. But you ask them to even pick up their dirt and stuff that they put on the parks. They'll never go out there and do it. But they can complain at some little thing that you guys don't do.
Well, I will tell you, I can't thank you enough for those last remarks.
Thank you, Carol. Thank you for those kind words.
What's fair is fair. And a lot of these people don't realize, or they don't have the sense to know what's fair.
Well, I'm glad you're saying it, not me, Carol. I'm going to, yes, ma'am.
I make a motion, we adjourn the meeting.
Yes.
Okay.
I second it.
Okay, she's second.
Who's
All in favor?
seconding?
Kathy Schmaltz.
Kathy Schmaltz.
You second?
Nobody wants to stay? Okay. All right. Thank you for being here, and thanks for your time.